Morning, everyone. When they asked me to come and do this, I'm like, yeah, that sounds wonderful. But I've never spoken to a bunch of adults before. I primarily work with little children from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. So, but it's all good because you're all here, and it shows me that you're taking a step forward in your health. So what I'd like to tell you about my health is I've been a diabetic for many years, and I can't even tell you what year it started, but I would go to my primary doctor, and he would test my blood sugars, and he would say, you know, here, we're going to give you this metformin, and your blood sugars will go down. And so I did that for a while, and I kept thinking, you know, every morning I wake up, I'm tired. I don't feel good. I'm lethargic during the day. I go to bed at night thinking I'm going to get good night's sleep. I wake up and I'm tired. I go through the day, you know, I go do my job like I'm supposed to, but I can't give 100% the way I feel. So I kept thinking there has to be something more to this. And my husband heard a commercial on WBT about a thyroid seminar, and he said, hey, you know, you have all those symptoms. You have the you're lethargic. You don't eat a lot, but yet you're not losing weight. So let's go there and see if that's something. Maybe you just have a bad thyroid. So I did that and went to the seminar, just like you all are sitting here, taking a step towards your own health. And I sat probably back in that third row thinking, you know, maybe this is the day I will get a true answer. Maybe I will eventually get something that will help me. You know, and I kept thinking, you know, medication's not doing good, so why not try something new? So I listened to what Dr. Ernst had to say, and I'm like, you know, some of these things sound a little quirky, but we're going to give it a try. So I went into his office. He did some blood tests, urine tests, took x-rays of my spine, did all these things, and the blood tests are so much different than what your doctor will order. He found things that I didn't even know existed, like very low in vitamin D, just to name a couple of things like that. I had scoliosis, which was evidently the nerves were not working well in my spine, and I did have diabetes. My A1C, for those of you who know what that is, it was 7.1 at that time and was not good. That was, you know, uncontrolled diabetes. So I didn't want that because as a child, I remember my grandfather giving himself injections, and I often wondered what that was for. You know, as a kid, you just think, it's just medicine, whatever. But he had diabetes, and later on developed some complications for that, and I didn't want that. And then as a really small child, I can remember a great-grandmother in a wheelchair with an amputated leg. And I'm like, well, what is that? And my mother would tell me, you know, she just has bad sugars. And I didn't know what that was. But as I grew older, I realized, you know, there's more complications to diabetes than you really realize, and you need to get it under control. And my husband wanted us to develop a better lifestyle, better health, so that we could enjoy our retirement in the next 10 or so years. And I didn't want to stay at home and be in pain and, you know, carry extra weight around. So as I went to Dr. Ernst and got these answers, I took his protocol, and he will develop a protocol that is individualized. It's not just for me, it's for each one of you. Everything is individual. I took that protocol and I ran with it. I thought, he tells me to eat cardboard, I'm going to eat cardboard. But that didn't happen. The food is more wonderful than cardboard. So I did that, but my focus was not on the diabetes. My focus was losing this extra weight. And I kept thinking, you know, if I can just get rid of the weight, the diabetes will go away. But not true. You have to heal yourself from the inside, and then the outside will come. And you know what? I didn't gain that weight overnight. So I'm not going to lose it overnight. But after doing the protocol and getting the chiropractor adjustments and doing what he told me to do, I've lost 40 pounds. I've lost 5 pant sizes. And, but it's not that. It's really not that. I feel better. My knees don't hurt. I walk probably 5 miles a day just back and forth getting my kids to school. And I can do that without saying, my aching knees. I don't have the pain. I can go to bed at night, wake up in the morning, and feel like, yeah, let's get out of bed and go do the day. I can come back home at night and even I don't take naps anymore. After school, I would go home and take a 2-hour nap and still not feel good. So what he has done for me has been life-saving. I will tell you, it is worth every bit of your time, your money, anything that you can do to improve your health. Because, like me, if I don't improve my health, I'm not going to be able to enjoy retirement. It doesn't matter if I would like to go travel somewhere and hike. I couldn't have done it until now. So I would just ask that you open up your hearts and listen to what he has to say, because it's phenomenal. It will change your life. It's changed mine. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in what he has to offer. So,
So first of all, I want to say thank you guys for being here. And if you agree it's tough to stand up in front of a crowd like this and share a story, come over just because the microphone's going to pick up from here. So what Tammy also, I think, needs to share, or what I would like her to share with you, is the idea that when you were under all the care with your medical doctor, how many times did they look for the cause of your condition? Like, searching for, here's why you have this.
No, they just told me because it was, my family members had it, that it was something that I just had to live with. And I was taking metformin, I was taking lisinopril for high blood pressure,
Right.
And they just said, you just have to do this. This is the rest of your life.
So here, and tell me if you would agree with this. The unique thing when we recognize, and I hope you guys understand this today, diabetes is just a label. It's not actually a diagnosis. Technically, you don't have diabetes. So I'm going to let that sink in for a second. I worked with her to remove 3 causes that I'm going to teach you guys of all health issues, and her sugars got better, her weight improved, blood pressure improved, off medications, because she finally said, with me and helping her to do this, here's the cause of the diabetes, here's the cause of the high blood pressure, here's why you're not losing weight, and it's not because you're not taking the right medication. It's not because you need another one. You guys understand? So I'm hoping that what you hear through her story is what medicine offers is management of disease, which I'd like to say is why they are MDs. Now what you should do is you should go to a real doctor, because then you can reverse disease. And I've had a lot of people say, well, you're not a real doctor. I don't want to be that kind of doctor. I don't want to be a medical doctor. I want to be somebody that can help you find cause. And truly and honestly, if you think about it, doctor by Latin, the Latin phrase doctor means what? No, not healer. Not even heal thyself, because that's what you should be doing. Doctor means to teach. A doctor is a teacher. So what I hope to do is I hope to doctor you today. So you become the healer. Your bodies are designed to heal by itself. She is now in our presence in a healing state, and we have proof with tests that says her immune system is stronger than before, her body's healing. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but A1C doesn't go down that fast medically. And this is what I want.
Right.
So hold on. Okay, remember? Sorry, I got so excited about this. When we took this photo, do you remember this? Her doctor said, what about this test?
He looked at it and he says, that can't happen that fast. He said, those numbers are wrong, so let's redo the test.
They thought the lab made a mistake. They thought the lab made a mistake. They're like, LabCorp messed up. There's no way. They reran it and
it's the same.
Exactly
the same. But then he told me, he said, you know what, you're a diabetic still, so I'm gonna give you a prescription for statins. But what he didn't know was my cholesterol is really low, which is also a bad sign.
And as you guys will learn today, I hate to say this, if I have to burst this bubble, statins actually make you diabetic.
Yeah.
They cause diabetes. So watch. Now, again, management of disease, right? Oh my gosh, your labs look great, everything looks great, cholesterol drugs. If she did this, what would have come back? Because she would have added to the toxicities that we just undid. We just detoxed her whole body from all the damaging effects of the medication she had been on for years. And so I'd like to say, did your doctor ever tell you, our goal is to get you off these medications?
No, he just kept increasing the medication.
Right. So what I hope you guys get a sense from is, I met her a year ago at the diabetes seminar we did in 2017. And these numbers are still achieved today. Like, this is gone for her. Almost like as if you peel the label off your forehead and you went, no more diabetes, because all it is a label that medicine puts to a symptom. I'm going to be honest with you, they don't even understand what diabetes is. To be truthful with you. When you work like she did, now was it a little bit daunting in the beginning?
It was a little bit quirky because it was like, but you realize after you think about it, you're eating actually whole foods. You're not eating that junk that comes in a box. So in the end, it's okay. It's just you have to have that mindset, and you want to do it for yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
And let me ask this, because again, you guys are going to see it's a therapeutic approach that comes from multiple angles. We have to look at diet, but diet doesn't cause diabetes. Okay? We have to look at your toxicity. We have to look at how much is in your body blocking receptors. But the tough one for most of us, remember how she said I had a scoliosis? What you're going to find out today is the scoliosis was a driving force for why she had diabetes. And the problem with a lot of scoliosis is you can't feel it. So if you have a little tiny curvature and you're hitting nerves that go to your pancreas or nerves that go to your liver, your brain cannot make those organs work appropriately. And again, imagine if when I met Tammy in the beginning, I said, okay, we're going to have to fix your spine and your diabetes are going to heal. Like, let's be honest, isn't that a big jump for most people? Isn't it a big jump for me to say, honestly, it doesn't matter what you eat because your body should be able to handle the sugars and process things properly? Because there are a lot of vegans that are diabetic. So we have to answer the question of why, and what I want to do today is to show you, you've never had the test to show why. I guarantee you haven't. And I'm going to give you opportunities to be able to get these kind of testings at nearly cost. So 50, 60, 70% off the pricing of it because it's a gift that I'd like to give to you because this right here, she is the reason that I do what I do. I was really sick when I was a child. Massive infections left and right. I had pre-diabetes. My whole family has diabetes. I got introduced to functional medicine, holistic healthcare, and God literally taught me how to do what I do. I've been in practice for 12 years. She is one of hundreds that we've seen diabetes, heart disease, cancer, you name it, disappear. So I'd like to say thank you for her for helping us to teach you what I'm hoping you do so that then maybe this time next year you'll be standing up here just like her. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you guys ready?
Yeah.
Can we give her applause? So, I want to be honest with you guys. What I'm going to say today and how I'm going to talk to you about diabetes is going to make your brain hurt. Are we okay if I say that? And I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, the hardest thing to do is to get an idea across a 1/4 inch of a human skull. Because we have this bone that protects our brain, right? So the hardest thing I have today, and maybe you'll agree with me as you see what we're going to talk about, is, like, you guys can do this. Okay? Just from show of hands, and I'm not going to ask you to say, yes, this is me, but who's here right now taking diabetes medications going, I want to get off these things? Okay? So just so I can see. So I'm going to say the majority of the room. Hopefully, because it's a diabetic seminar, right?
Yeah.
But let's go to the next step. Is anybody here kind of pre-diabetic, not yet taking medications, wondering like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to go down that path? Because I had a couple of you email saying, Dr. Ernst, I'm pre-diabetic. Should I come? Now, hopefully you guys know me enough either through listening to radio shows or coming to my events. There's no such thing as pre-diabetes either. You're either healthy or you're not. Does that make sense? The only difference is pre-diabetes means medicine says you're not bad enough yet for us to put you on this med, so this is the fallacy behind it. You should wait and let's watch and see what happens, and then when it gets worse, we'll take care of it. But then how do they take care of it, right? They give you medication, etc. Is there anybody here today that maybe doesn't have either pre-diabetes or diabetes but has like a family history, is going, I don't want to end up this way, just out of curiosity? Okay, so that's fine. Anybody here that's like, I didn't even know it was a diabetes seminar. I thought it was weight loss. Anybody? Okay, so are we all right? We're here to learn about diabetes. We're here to learn that it's not a diagnosis, although they'll tell you it is. It's not the reason that you're sick. It is just simply a symptom that needs further digging. Okay? The elevated blood sugars is not causing your diabetes. But that's what they say is making you a diabetic, right? It's what's causing the elevation of the sugars that's leading to why the sugars are high. So what we should say is you have a metabolic condition that's undiagnosed, that you don't know the cause of yet, and that's why your sugars are high, and medicine says we're going to call that diabetes. Does that make sense? So I'm hoping that this morning you get a chance to say, oh, phew, okay, so if I don't have diabetes, what do I have then? And that's what I want to show you today. I'm going to show you exactly what you have. I'm going to show you how to test for it so you can prove it to yourself. I'm going to show you how to fix it. Does that sound fun? And I've seen it happen over and over again. You're also going to hear some video testimonials of some of our patients that couldn't be here today, and they wanted to share their message with you. So occasionally, when you see a photo of somebody, I'll hit next. There'll be a video, and I want you guys to listen to it, okay? And again, I know that today is by divine appointment because you're here in this seat for a specific reason. And my reasoning is to share with you a message that you can take your health, your life, your responsibility back. But you have to stop doing what most of us do, which is putting our faith in the pills. Now here's the second one, putting our faith in our insurance companies, right? Well, the doctor that I want to go to, they're not on that network, and so therefore I can't. We got to talk about this. We got to talk about insurance. And then the big elephant in the room, which some of you may have already done, can I see your packet for a second? Is this, right? How many of you, when you were sitting here waiting, you went through this and you pulled out this little half sheet, and you were like, oh, 1697, 897, 497, okay? Like, I already know it. Look, I've been doing this long enough. Some of you are like, oh my God, I can't do this. Is there a back door? Can I secretly get out of here somehow? Okay, can I be honest? I want to talk about the elephant in the room. These are the fees that are retail set by your insurance companies if you wanted to do even the basic level examinations I'm going to talk about today. And because I'm a functional doctor, I'm not an MD, does your insurance cover the testing that we offer? No. I'm going to ask. They won't because we're looking for cause. Does that make sense? Now, if I run a blood test to look for just your A1C, they'll say, yeah, sure, we'll cover that. Because those numbers will tell us do you need more medications or not. Yeah. So just be careful. Cause tests are going to cost you, but would you be okay today if I show you how we can reduce these up to $1,000 off? So that would mean even our highest level test is only $697. And something I'd like to do for you, if you're willing to maybe take a step out into saying, Dr. Ernst, will you be able to help me? The gift I want to give you for being here is I would like for you to see if you show me your commitment by purchasing your tests. Let me find out what's wrong. It's going to sound weird. I'd like to give you an early Christmas gift. I'll give you your money back by reinvesting it into the protocols you need to get yourself well. So if you purchase one of our testing offers, let's say you do the $697, you'll have everything that you need tested. We'll get all the results back. I'll meet with you. I'll say, here's what we found. Here's what's going on. Here's what you need to do. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to refund you the cost of your test by putting it into the cost of your care. Do you guys understand? I want to give you a gift today. But I know some of you are going to go, no, I don't want to do that. Which is okay. I get that. And some of you will be like, seriously, you would want to do that? God blessed me with my health. And I know that my blessings can pass forward to you. Because I've been in practice 12 years. My clinic is one of the largest natural practicing functional clinics in North Carolina. And I'm at a point where financially I can actually give blessings back. So if you'd be willing, I'd like to try to just drill a little tiny hole in your skull today. So I don't have to go through the bone. I can just implant this information directly. And I am going to ask you, would you like me to help you? I know it sounds selfish and you might be like, is this why you're here? Is this what you're doing this for? Well, yes, because I know that you can make the breakthrough, but I know that the other ways of doing it, medical, etc., they don't work. Do you guys agree? Yes. You wouldn't be here today unless you were looking for something different. That's right. So is it okay if I just tell you up front, I'm going to offer you the options of having a way to find out if we can find the 3 underlying causes. I would love to sit down with you and say, here's exactly what we found. Go do this and you'll heal. And I'd like to credit your cost back to you so you can go do that. Is everybody all right with that? Okay, are we, like all the financial worries, all the stuff aside? Can we have some fun today? Yes. Fantastic. So I want to start today by teaching you a concept, which is that inside your body, you have 70 trillion cells. And they've discovered this by doing some fancy testing, and that every single one of your cells, by definition, has a fire going on inside of it. I'm not a very good artist, but that's not that bad, right? Okay, so inside your cells, you have a fire. If I was to say the phrase metabolism, okay, so the heat that you generate, your metabolism could be related to that of a fire. Does that make sense to you guys? Yep. Now, we need oxygen for fires to burn, yes? So it obviously makes sense. We got to get oxygen in. We also need, in the analogy of a fire, in this instance, to keep this thing going, what do we need to keep putting on this? Fuel. Wood, right? So the fuel. So what is the fuel that makes the fire burn for our cells? Okay, that's one. And that's the one we're going to focus on today. But there are all alternatives to the fires. And we'll talk about those. But you understand, sugar has to get into the cell for this thing to stay there. Now, one of the biggest causes of diabetes is deoxygenation to your blood cells, which carry, right, so your red blood cell carries the oxygen. Ready for this? Because sugar starts attaching itself to the red blood cell, and when there's sugar all over it, like a donut, sugar-coated, can the oxygen get onto the red blood cell if there's sugar all over it? It's difficult, so it's hard to get the oxygen in here. So if I snuff out the oxygen in this fire, what happens? It'll start to go out. Now, that makes your cells tired, fatigued. They start to back up with metabolic aspects. Plus, when they can't burn sugar for energy, they start to switch to something else, and it'll often go into a process that increases the acidity of the cell. So the pH goes down. And are you guys aware that today they're now saying acidity at a cellular level is what causes disease? It creates inflammation. So the whole aspect of this is, can things get in and get out? Now what happens is, and again, we're talking about cause, is the actual layer, the wrapper, the membrane to the cell becomes damaged. And it becomes inflamed. And then if this thickens or scars over, oxygen can't get in. So what we have is we have a cellular issue. Now, if you can't get the oxygen in, and we're trying to throw wood on this fire, and the fire's less hot, what happens if I keep putting wood onto it? You'll snuff it out. So here's the brilliance of your body. It'll say, wait a second. If I add this sugar to the cell, it will kill the cell. So it's going to go, hey, gatekeepers, insulin receptors, we want you to turn off. We want you to come back in. We want to decrease the number of receptors because we can't keep pushing this in here because of the inflammation at the levels, because the oxygen is down, so sugar will go up because your body's still eating it and you're still producing it. So do you see? This is the first symptom, not of diabetes, but of an inflammatory condition where the fire inside your cell has gone out. Now I want to go a little deeper. In order for this thing to start, doesn't there have to be like a spark or an energy to start the fire? Where does the spark or the energy for your cells come from? What tells them what to do and how to get energy and everything else? Your brain does, right? So every cell in your body has an individual nerve fiber sending energy, literally power, to this. So can you see how one cause of diabetes is damage to the cellular membranes due to inflammation, which I'll tell you where it comes from, not allowing that to come in. The second cause could be you've lost the power to keep the fire going. So therefore, what the body does is it goes like this. Well, I've got all this wood, sugar, and I can't put it in here because you can't burn it because either the nerves are damaged or there's inflammation or you've got too much deoxygenation, so this stuff starts to pile up. And here's the amazing thing. Your body knows what to do with the excess sugar. What does it turn sugar into? Fat. Now, you guys all go like this. Well, I want to lose weight. So you go to the gym, you work out like crazy, you might burn the fat off, but your body says, I was using that to store all of your sugar, so that's why it just keeps coming back. Does that make sense to you guys? All you have to it's so profound, but all you have to do is make sure we get that fire burning again by cleaning the cell tissues, which I'm going to show you how to do, reconnecting the nerve functions, and decreasing the sugar stressors to your red blood cells, and it comes by three things. We're going to go over those today. But do you understand? When medicine says, gosh, you got so much sugar in your blood, you therefore have... So now watch what they try to do. They try to give you a drug that makes these receptors more open. They're trying to push more sugar in, but because the fire is weak, it actually makes it worse. You would snuff it out. So do you see why taking metformin, glucophage, Actos, whatever, Avandia, all you're doing is you're making your cell sicker, and that's why usually most diabetics start with 1, and then it goes to 2, and it goes to 3. And I've had some people have 5, 6, 7 medications for their diabetes, and they're going, where is the end in sight? And the doctors go, there is no end in sight. If you don't take these, you're going to die. Is there truth to that? Yes, but the problem is that's not the answer. They're going after the wrong thing. The elevation in sugar is the effect, not the cause. It's the effect. And I hate to say it, but to have your medical doctor say to you, you can't get rid of this diabetes is BS. It's bad science. BS. I'm going to show you the science today, literally, where they have research backing almost 10 years ago showing this is what causes diabetes, but it's not fixed by a pill. And because of that, you'll have to take the responsibility. So look, I've had patients come in where like their sugars were in the 3, 4, 500 range, like in desperation, right? Okay? Now, I didn't mean to call you out on this, right? But watch. You go to the emergency room and it's over 500, right? They're like, okay, we got to push insulin, we got to push all this stuff in. And I don't want to give it away because you can share it if you want to later. But you and I, we talked over the phone and I said, do this for 24 hours. And we're talking like from 500 down to 2 something, if I remember right. So I promise you, they don't understand what it's coming from. And if all I can do is see what's going on in your metabolism, why isn't this fire working? How much damage to the inflammation of the membranes do you have? Is the nerves interfered with to your organs? I promise you clear that. Oh my gosh. It's like you were meant to heal. Isn't that weird, isn't it? Now look, if you right now, somebody like left out of here, tripped and fell and somehow broke their wrist, wouldn't those bones grow back together again? Wouldn't the ligaments repair? If you stubbed your toe or you cut your skin, doesn't it all grow back together again? So the question I have for you as a diabetic, if you're taking them, is why hasn't your body healed itself from these diabetes? It should. But it's not because it's going after sugars, it's because you have interferences that won't let that work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's going to sound simple, but yet it's very profound. But at the same token, it's all within your control if you understand what are the things that cause diabetes, the actual causes. So what I'm going to talk to you about is not, here's why your sugars are high, here's why your body's not metabolizing them, and that's why they're high. Does that make sense? So we're going to go over the tests that you have not had done that will find out how much inflammation do you have, what's the heat of your fire, what's the neurological power. We're going to look at some medical tests, because isn't it nice to see like an A1C of 9 go down to say like 7 or 6 or 5 in 90 days? Something I've learned after 12 years of working with people is you'll lose a ton of weight, you'll get your energy back, you'll have your life changed, but all you want to do is you want to see one number move, which is fine, because that's what we're programmed in. But I'm going to tell you, man, your whole life is going to change. Blood pressure, cholesterol, sugars, enzymes, energy, vitality, your skin, because you're not a single entity. It's not just one thing going on. It's an entire underlying system that we have to look at from a 30,000-foot view. You see the big picture, and it's easy. Here, make these changes, massive results. Massive results. And so I'm going to show you the one thing that you need to do if you want to reverse diabetes. And if you don't ever want to get it, it's one thing. And it's find the cause. Does that make sense? Yep. You know how they have those commercials that will say stuff like, hey, ask your doctor if, and I'll fill in the blank, medication is right for you? You guys heard these, right?
Yeah.
They're all over the place now, aren't they? So I'd like to say, instead of asking your doctor if glucophage, metformin, Actos is right for you, what the commercial should be saying is, ask your doctor why you have your condition. Would you agree? But be careful for the answer. It's in your genes. Okay, now watch this real quick. When do most people end up expressing diabetes? 40 plus on the average, right? So most adults. Now we used to say, well, that's why we call it adult onset, type 2. Now they're starting to say, well, gosh, our children today are starting to have type 2 diabetes. So they say we can't call it adult anymore because we have sometimes teenagers or even 6 or 7-year-olds that have type 2 diabetes. So what we have to look at is it's not your genes, because if the DNA inside of your cell was saying, I have diabetes, then the moment that you became a full functioning human being, even in utero, you would have had elevated blood sugars. You wouldn't be able to handle things. When you were born, from the moment you took your first breath, you would have had type 2 diabetes. Genetic expression happens from the moment your body starts to actually function at a metabolic level. So say, for example, say Down syndrome, right? That's a genetic expression of a condition because of the DNA being off balance and having one extra chromosome. And do we see that show up at 40?
No.
It's from birth. So you can't have a genetic condition just show up at year 40. It's not humanly possible. So when they say it's the reason you have diabetes, it's because it's in your genes, that's bad science. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. When they say it's because of your age, it's also bad science, because I have some people that are patients that are 60, 70 and have no diabetes. So if age caused diabetes, you would hit that magical clock. You'd go, oh gosh, here's the diabetic year, and you'd have diabetes. Does that make sense? Cause is always this creates that. So I hope you understand it's not your age, it's not your DNA, it's not even your diet, it's the ability for this fire to work which has to do with oxygen and exchange across the cell membrane. Right here, this is the science that they're now saying. The membranes in your body are damaged, and they need to be repaired, and there's no pill that will do that. I'll show you how you have to clean them off, and you have to let your cell rebuild itself. Does that make sense? It'll do it by itself. So let's talk about some things just to make sure we're all on the same page. Glucose is a sugar that feeds the fire in your body, and it helps it to sort of produce energy. The challenge is sugar, by definition, produces 4 units of energy. So if you're going, well, God, I'm really tired all the time, that tells me instantly that you're not converting your sugars properly into energy. So a pre-diabetic will often say stuff like, well, I'm having difficulty sleeping, I'm yawning in the mid-afternoon, I feel like I'm getting older, all this kind of stuff. Does that make sense? Most diabetics are struggling with their energy outright. Okay, so we have to look at it and say, what is the normal levels? Now, your medical doctor will say, as long as you're under 99, you don't have diabetes. Now, in the functional world, if we're talking about real hard science, what the research is showing is that actually it should be in between 65 to 89. Now, some of you would say, oh my gosh, I've never even seen that number in my life. You can achieve this if you fix this. Does that make sense? Now, if you look here, many of us, like if I just said, hey guys, under your seat is a glucose meter, check them right now. It's not. But if you did this, you realize most of us would fail this test even right now, meaning almost all of us are pre-diabetic. But why aren't we doing something about it? You can't feel your blood sugars. And I've had some people tell me, oh, no, I can. In fact, you don't understand, like when I'm like, I feel like my blood sugar is low. Okay, then that's not what I'm talking about. You can't say to me, like, what's your number right now? Like, how close? 82, 99, 110? Because you can't do that. You have to look at the actual number by measuring it. Okay? And I did a radio show once where I said, look, the greatest thing you could ever do is spend $20, go to like Target, Walgreens, Rite Aid, check your sugar right now. The greatest thing. But why aren't we doing it? Because we don't want to do it, typically. We don't want to see, oh my God, like if I have to do that, I'm going to have to do something about it. It's like we like to live in ignorance. Would you guys agree with me? But the greatest thing you can do is find out where you at. Now, some of you are already telling me you're already in this zone going, I want to learn how to get back to here, yes? Did you know that there's a lethal amount? If your sugars get over 500, it's so thick that it doesn't let the blood flow to organs in your body. And I've been there, you were there, and the challenge is, in an emergency state, what they do is they inject insulin into you, hoping like, God, I hope this comes down, I hope this comes down. They still don't even know why it's happening. Now, if you're going to look at how you should have your sugars after you eat, okay, if you take a bite of a food, any food, 2 hours later, if your sugars are still over a certain amount, let's say it's over 140, then you're pre-diabetic. If it's in the 180 range, you're confirmed a diabetic, and I promise you, unfortunately, almost all of you would probably fail that test. So your body is designed to work at a metabolic level no matter what you eat. If this fire is burning, you could eat Bojangles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and never end up with diabetes, because there are people who have done that. Does that make sense? You could smoke and drink and do everything wrong, and yet you would be, and then you could be the person who's like, I don't understand, I go to Pilates 6 days a week, I do yoga, Tai Chi, I eat paleo, I go to do all this stuff, I'm doing smoothies, I'm fasting, my sugars won't come down. What that tells me is it's not your diet, it's the way your body is trying to communicate to itself. Does that make sense? So you can control it if you figure out the cause. Now here's something that I want to prove to you why medicine doesn't understand what diabetes is. Would you guys agree with me that insulin is a hormone that is secreted by the body in the presence of sugar? So they're like hand in hand, yes? Yes. So when you eat a food and you get sugar into your blood, your pancreas produces insulin at the direct amount, which is really cool if you think about it. The exact specific, this is the power that God put in your body. The exact amount, not too much, not too little, for however much sugar you ate. But now watch, as sugars go up, insulin goes up, and your doctors will say, well, it's not working, so we'll give you more insulin. Because somehow or another, your body didn't produce enough. No. That should tell you right there, you have a problem at the cell receptor, the receiver, the antenna. The insulin receptor is not receiving it, and therefore that's why the sugar hasn't pushed in. Now the challenge becomes this. If a diabetic is tested and has their insulin tested, did you know this? It always comes back high. Not low. High. So if you have sugars that are in the 200s and you actually asked your doctor to check your insulin, you would see your insulin's probably in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Now, if you said, well, doc, I don't understand, doesn't insulin make sugars go down? They would have to say, yes. So then how can I have high insulin and have high blood sugar? Just think about it for a second. This is why they don't test insulin. Because they don't want you to investigate and figure out, oh, no, we don't actually know what we're doing. We know how to give drugs that can bring the levels down, but we can't control the source and the cause. If your insulin is high, what we're now learning is it actually damages the membranes. So remember we talked about there's a fat membrane that protects the cell from the outside. High levels of insulin damage the membrane, and that means more sugar can't get in. So the more insulin you have, the worse your condition gets. Which is why when you become a type 3 diabetic, are you guys familiar with this term? When a type 2 diabetic now has to inject insulin, just like type 1 has to inject insulin, when you have to inject insulin as a type 2 diabetic, they're now saying it's type 3, it's damage to the receptors of the membranes, and they're just going, let's just try to push it in as much as we can. And insulin is an aging hormone. It will make you age faster. It makes you gain weight. It shuts off your brain. They're now saying it's the leading reason that so many of us have cognitive decline, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. So they're calling that also type 3 diabetes. And this is something that is new within like the last 5 years. So A1C is the percentage of your red blood cells. So remember I said if there's a red blood cell and it has sugar attached all over it, we can measure the amount of your red blood cells that have sugar in it by looking at this number. It means by percent. So if you have, say, an A1C of 7.1, it means 7.1% of your total blood volume is covered with sugar. Not a good idea. It gets lethal if you get up into the 15 plus range, and I've worked with some patients that have had A1Cs at 13, 12, 9, etc., right? Now, if it's that high, you know what that tells me? It's not a sugar issue, it's a receptor issue, it's a toxicity issue, and it's a neurological issue. You have all three if you're this high. Does that make sense? Now, you need to understand this. This is vitally important. Insulin receptor is like an antenna. So we have our cell membrane. We have the fire inside of here, right? This is where everything's burning. This receptor allows the hormone to connect to it, and what's supposed to happen is sugar is supposed to go into the cell. Now, what we're learning today is there's something called toxin-induced insulin resistance, where instead of the insulin landing on it, a toxin lands on it and it closes the receptor. So therefore, if you have, say, like mercury, cadmium, lead, ferritin, all these things I need to teach you about, if you have too much of that in your blood, it doesn't matter what your insulin levels are or your sugar levels are, it can't get into the cell. And you would also be labeled as a diabetic, even though your insulin is normal. You can see the problem? And the sugars are maybe slightly high. It's not because of this, it's because of what is going on at the cellular level, and you can test for this. We can actually find out, oh my gosh, you have this blocker, it's preventing the receptor from working. If you take a chelation agent, just swallow this stuff, you'll see it flush out, and that's how we see sugars go from hundreds down into double digits in just a matter of months. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So again, type 1 is when you are having an issue where you can't produce insulin at all. Okay? Typically found in our childhood ranges. It's called juvenile diabetes. What that means is that the pancreas either got attacked or somehow it shuts down and it's not producing insulin. The likelihood that some of you are here today with type 1 is pretty low, but is there anybody that's type 1 in this room? Okay, good. I mean, it's really low for adults to have it. But now know this. It's not genetic. Because again, most children develop type 1 diabetes at age 4, 5, or 6. And the research is now suggesting, this is going to blow your mind, that early introduction to cow's milk proteins is causing damage to the insulin response within the pancreas, and they're also connecting it to an infection with a virus called Epstein-Barr. So if your kids get a viral infection and they're drinking milk, you're literally just burning the pancreas out. There's also new research showing that the digestive system is directly connected to all three of these. So some children have a early version of leaky gut, and they get this, and their doctors go, whoops, it was genetic, insulin for the rest of their life. You can actually turn it around. I've had type 1 diabetics see their insulin units drop 50, 60, 70, 80%, because we're not going after symptoms, we're going after, well, was there a cause? Would the pancreas be able to regenerate itself? You better believe it can. But it can't if the interference is still present. Does that make sense? Now, type 2 is what we're all familiar with. It's the idea that for some reason, the sugar's not going into the cell, and that's why it's climbing. Type 3 was defined in 2008 by this medical doctor by saying, well, now we have insulin resistance at the brain level, and we have the necessity where someone has to keep injecting insulin to keep their sugar stable, meaning it's uncontrolled late-stage type 2 diabetes, aka Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, etc. And you know what? Sadly, a lot of us are already showing early signs of that, aren't we? We're like, my brain just doesn't feel like it's here. They're now calling it brain fog. You guys heard of this? Kind of the idea that, like, you know, I could say something to you and then ask you 4 minutes later, what did I say? And we're like, who are you again? I don't remember having this conversation. Right. Can you guys bump the air down a little bit? If you don't mind? It's me too, like, oh, yeah. My fire is burning though. My fire is burning. Now, out of curiosity, ready? If this was a money seminar, and I was going to ask you to invest in a stock, would you guys want to invest in this stock? If we had done it, you know, back in 1967, if I put $100 into the stock at this time, okay, this looks like a good graph or something to invest in, yes? Yet that is the incidence and rates of diabetes within the United States. So this condition is climbing drastically. Now you're going to learn something in just a minute about why it all of a sudden, like right here, see this, went sky high, because normally it would have just continued that trend. Something happened in the mid-90s that's causing our sugars to climb drastically. And I'm going to share it with you because it is one of the reasons it's a cause, right there. We did something in 1996, 1995 that's causing diabetes within the United States. So we want to reverse this trend. Now, because it's a good thing to invest in, wouldn't you agree, we have more and more and more and more medications coming out because it's big business. Did you know the average diabetic spends between $4,000 to $6,000 a year managing their conditions by either copays for meds or sometimes the copays aren't covered, so you have to pay for it outright, etc. So I hate to say it, but medicine is business. Okay, so they're not going to put themselves out of business. And the way they'll do that is they'll try to teach you things, they'll try to implant their truth into your brain. I'm hoping today that I get to put a truth into you that says, no, you can heal from this. Because don't they say there's nothing that can be done? Type 2 diabetes, once you have it the rest of your life. All you can do is manage it. Okay, that is a mistruth. If you believe it, though, guess what? You won't be able to get out of the trap. If you follow what they're teaching you to do, you won't be able to get out of the trap. So I want to let you know there is massive hope for this. And I have seen to date over 30,000 patients come through our clinic in 12 years. Our success rates with type 2 diabetes are in the 90+% range. We've also seen that with thyroid, heart disease, even cancers, because what you're going to find out, unfortunately, is if there's a lot of sugar in the body over time, it feeds the cells that have cancer reactions because they don't have insulin receptors that work the way everything else does. They have direct connections to the sugars in your body. Cancer feeds directly off of sugar without using insulin. So if your sugars are high, you're physically feeding the various tumors that we all have. Are you guys okay if I say that? All of us have microscopic tumors inside of us right now. The strength of your immunity determines if it snuffs them off. But if you have elevated sugars, you're feeding those tumors over time, which is why we often see that a lot of type 2 diabetics end up with cancer. So have you ever been told, though, that as long as you keep your numbers under normal control with the meds, then you'll be fine? Like, look, you have diabetes, but your numbers are pretty good, you're in the 6 range, you're managing it well, etc. Stay on the medications, you'll be fine. Yet the research is showing that this is what happens with most diabetics over time that stay on their medications. 68% of them develop a heart failure issue. Many of them end up having to have limbs cut off, or diabetic neuropathies, or even dementia kicking in because, again, the brain uses sugar just like the rest of your body. What happens if your brain says, well, I need that to burn this fire and I can't get the sugar? When a brain cell starts to become acidic, now we start losing function in the body. Does that make sense? Memory first, typically, and then physical function. On the average, most diabetics live less than those who are not. So if it's a medication that is supposed to be the answer, then why is it that things like glucophage and metformin are causing damage to the organs? Do you guys know that technically you're supposed to have your labs run on a regular basis if you're taking glucophage and metformin because it causes liver failure? It causes damage to the, so they monitor your enzymes to see are your enzymes climbing. If they're not doing that, then they're not managing you properly. But you shouldn't be looking to see if the medication is causing damage to an organ. We should be looking for the cause. Now, the other problem is almost all of those medications, because they try to drive sugar in, indirectly increase insulin. So if I'm taking metformin, yes, maybe my sugars go down, but it goes down because you increase the insulin response, and insulin creates damage to the membrane. So you see how the very medication we're taking to manage it is causing the condition to get worse. And that's because it's what? It is big business. How do I invest in this? I need to make more of it. Okay, so all you have to do is step aside and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to take these medications anymore. I'm going to seek the cause, let your body heal by itself. And trust me, it's hard, isn't it? Because I've had some people say, well, no, doctors, I can't stop the medications. My sugars are going to shoot through the roof. And I'm going to, yes, they will in the immediate now, but if you fix the underlying cause as we reduce them, what's going to happen? They should stay the same and start to come down. I'm not saying don't leave this door and go stop your meds right now. I'm saying fix the underlying issue and you will literally see them drop so fast that you'll have to stop the medications. Yes. Okay? Harvard found out, this is something fascinating, that a diet high in fat, specifically the saturated fats found in meat and other plants like coconuts and avocados, showed a 3-fold decrease in type 2 diabetes. Now watch this though. The American Diabetic Association says to eat what? Lots and lots of grains, lots and lots of milk and dairy and cheese, and all of these actually turn into sugar into your body. They're saying don't eat a lot of fat, have your protein be a little bit low and focus on fruits and vegetables. Now of the two of these, fruits still have sugar in them, okay? So when you look at the classic medical American diabetic diet, it's eat lots of fruits, sugars, eat lots of breads and grain sugars, eat lots of milk and dairy sugars, and do you see that they know what causes you to not be able to get out of it? Now, if I said to you, no more grains, no more dairy, no more fruits, let's be honest, what do most people say to me? Well, we have this heart attack. We're like, I had a patient the other day, she's like, how am I supposed to eat a sandwich? Don't eat a sandwich. What am I supposed to eat? You got a lot of stuff, right? Fish, fats, etc. So it's going to sound weird when I say to you, you need to pay attention to this. And as a diabetic, if your sugars are north of 125, as hard as it says, no fruits. Because fruits make it go up. Now, can you go back to eating fruits if you fix this stuff? Absolutely yes. Does that make sense? Now, the whole statin issue is a problem because most people that are diabetic also have high cholesterol. And so they'll put you on this because they're looking at it singularly, aren't they? Okay, your sugars are high, take this medication. Your cholesterols are high, take this medication. Your blood pressures are high, take this medication. But what if I told you that all three of them are elevated simply because of what we're going to talk about today? That. This causes all disease within the human body. The difference is, where is there the fire the weakest? If your fire is the weakest within the tissues of your thyroid, then you would be expressing thyroid disease. If the fire is the weakest in your liver, in your pancreas, then you express diabetes. If it's in your stomach, then you'll have digestive disorders. Do you guys understand that? The same thing that causes, that would just be within the heart. The same thing that causes diabetes is the same thing that causes thyroid problems, the same thing that causes high blood pressure, the same thing that causes any sort of issue within your body, because it's all about a cellular response. Now, if I take statins and I'm lowering my cholesterols, they're now showing again it increases your insulin and that makes it worse. So I promise you, you can make this turn around if you go and look for the real stuff. Now, this is worth writing down. So I know you guys are taking notes, okay? When you go to your doctor and they test for your blood sugars, they'll run a serum glucose and a serum A1C if you're lucky. Sometimes they don't even do it on their basic panels. And remember, we talked about our numbers. If your fasting sugar is over 125 and your hemoglobin A1C is over 6.4, you would be a diabetic. This is a patient that came to my clinic after coming to my diabetes seminar last year. So do they have diabetes? No. They have a metabolic underlying disorder, and that's the symptom of it. Does that make sense? Right. Medicine says you have diabetes. But you guys understand, you do not have diabetes. You have an underlying unknown interference, and that's the expression of it. It's like this. If you have a fever and your temperature's high, there's something creating that to happen, yes? So if I were to say to you, oh, you have a feverish disease, so therefore we need to give you this medication to lower your fever. Well, we do that, don't we? but they're not telling you what's causing the fever to be high. Now, if we watch for inflammation, okay, there's a marker called C-reactive protein and homocysteine. These are important because the more inflammation, the thicker the membranes, the more this is blocked, the more we see these two markers elevate. Okay, so watch. If you have elevated C-reactive protein, as a functional doctor, that tells me your fire is going out in your liver, in the liver. And the liver regulates your sugars. So there's cause and effect to elevated C-reactive protein. There's no medication that lowers C-reactive protein. Now, I had a patient once say their doctor told them it's an inflammatory marker, and they said, well, the only thing we could give you is an anti-inflammatory then, so they put them on low-dose aspirin to try to control it, even though they had no heart issues or anything else. It ended up causing kidney dysfunctions. So be careful for them to say, take an anti-inflammatory and that'll fix your inflammation. Homocysteine tells us within your entire tissue systems. So say like your vascular tissues, or within your brain, etc. Ferritin is one of the most important, and I've rarely seen people get this tested, because ferritin is a protein that is excreted by an inflamed liver that actually goes here and blocks the receptor to tell your body, hey, you need to make a change. We need to stop this. This reaction that's going on, if it keeps going, this whole system is going to fail. So when we see ferritin go up, we go, that's cause and effect. Ferritin can be chelated out. It's an iron that has to come out of your body. And when you do it, the receptors open and the sugars go down. Vitamin D is important because it shuttles around all of your hormones. So insulin needs to move and it needs to work, but most of us sometimes have vitamin D deficiency, and that's why your insulin reactions don't happen. So what would happen if you're going, I don't know why my sugars aren't getting fixed, but you had a test result that came back like this? You can't fix that with medication. The way you fix it is by waking up and going, okay, I've got to find out what's going on within my liver. And I'm not talking about liver enzymes. I'm talking about different detox pathways, your bile, your solutions. I'll show you how to test it. Now, if I go and I go deeper and I'm going to look in to see what's going on, why can't this fire burn, we run a special test called a urine metabolic marker that shows us, are you taking fats and making energy out of them? Are you burning your sugars appropriately? This shows me the fire inside your body. If you are urinating out the precursors for your fire, then it tells me that it's not being done in the body. Does that make sense? Yep. If I have a lot of my markers for my heat in my urine, then I can't produce it in the body. Now, this would show me right here that what we have is damage at the cell membrane, because as I look to see is your cell producing energy, we are seeing major deficits on energy production. So we can actually go inside this cell and ask the response of that membrane and what is happening at a metabolic level. We can test the actual efficiency of you being able to create energy out of your sugars. So if I see this, I go, oh, your entire pathway inside is also shutting down, and that's why the sugars are elevated. We can look for oxidation, which is damage to the membranes. I'm telling you, they have massive panels today that can pinpoint the exact specifications of where it is. Here's the only challenge. This is run through a company called Genova Diagnostics out of Asheville. If you were to call them and say, hey, can I run this? It's a $1,300 test. Your insurance will say it's an experimental test because it's not ordered by an MD, and if you want to have us pay for it, you'd have to pay the full price for the test. Now, if I said to you a $1,300 test would tell us the exact thing you need to do right now to turn your diabetes around in 90 days, how many of you would say, it's worth an investment for me? Yeah. Right? Some of you would say, let's do it. But then some of you would also go, well, I want to do it, but I can't afford it. So again, remember when I said I can knock prices down? I've run so many tests through that lab, they give me doctor's fees, so I will buy the test for you using my credit card, and I'll give you the test. But you would have to tell me that you want me to do that. Now, again, if you ask your doctor to run it, because I've had some people do this, well, can you give me the test, let me take it to my MD, and let me have them run it? You know what they usually say? No. Well, first of all, we don't recommend that you do that, and second of all, most of them will tell you outright, your insurance doesn't cover this, so why would you ever want to do it? I've had some medical doctors look at them and say, I don't even know what it means. Yeah. So you have to take the responsibility for yourself. Someone has to teach you how to take control of it if you want to get it fixed. I'm more than happy to show you how to do it, because it's actually really easy once we see what's going on. Now, there are 3 known causes that create all of this, and it's worth noting because more than likely, if you're here today, you either have one of them or you have all 3 of them. The first one is what we would call neurogenic, meaning the nerve tissue to the systems within your body are deficient. They're not firing properly, and the power has gone out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The next one is called toxicogenic. That means that you have something blocking the membrane's receptors. Insulin's trying to land on it, but it can't because there's something in the way. It's like as if somebody came into your house and parked in your garage, and then you want to get your car in the garage. You go, I can't. You would have to do what? Take the car out. Makes perfect sense, yes. And then put your car in. So this would require identifying the toxin and detoxin. It's that simple. That's what the test shows us. The last one is the newer, which is what the research is now showing. It's called microbiogenetic, meaning the bacteria in your intestines create our sugar response. These are the 3 causes of diabetes that if you don't get them tested to find out if you have them, which is why you haven't gotten rid of it in the first place. Make sense?
Repeat the last one.
It's microbiogenetic. Your bacteria in your intestines, technically they're termed your microbiome. And I'm going to show it to you today. You're going to see that what you have going on in here is a direct relationship to how your body is expressing its insulin reaction and sugars and everything else. The challenge today is that most of us know that there's stuff going on with our digestive system, but we don't know how to fix it. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So if we start with this neurogenic one, it's literally just the idea of can your organs hear the energy that's supposed to be going to them? So if we had to ask the pancreas to produce insulin, first what happens is there's a nerve that comes out of the back of your neck called the vagus nerve. It runs down the spinal system and goes directly into the pancreas. The vagus nerve is how your body senses the amount of sugar in your blood. Remember I said to you earlier, if you ate 2 units of sugar, then your body would secrete 2 units of insulin. How does it know you had 2 units? Well, it has the neurological ability to sense and detect how much sugar is in your blood, and the brain will then say, hey, pancreas, secrete. Now, does it make sense that if you had an interference in the efficiency for the nerve to fire, your body would sense the 2 units of sugar, but maybe only put out 1 unit of insulin? This is called nerve damage. Now, I know what happens when I say nerve damage outright. Most of you would go, well, wouldn't I, feel something wrong? Wouldn't my neck hurt if I had nerve damage? We're talking about at a cellular level within the nerves. You can't feel nerve function damage, but if you tell me, oh, I have nerve damage, my hands are tingling, my legs are falling asleep, etc., then you're already telling me it's happening inside of you without you even knowing it. Now, if we were to look at where the nerve comes out, this is an x-ray of somebody from the side. See their head here, their teeth here, their neck here, their shoulders here. Right here is the space that the vagus nerve leaves the spinal system. It runs down the esophagus and goes directly into your body. So if we took an x-ray of your neck, we can actually look and see, do you have the normal open space for a vagus nerve? And we can measure the amount of alignment to determine how much functionality is taking place. Here's what's wild. If I look here and I see a big difference, say, for example, like this, who's a patient you're about to hear a testimony from, what is going on here in this person compared to this one? What's happening right there? Okay? Now, that pinching is putting a compression to the vagus nerve as it exits, and we can measure the amount of compression by saying how far off are the angles from their normal. When you're in the 50-plus range, we're looking at 60 to 70% loss of signaling. Now she's going, well, I've had almost lethal diabetes, nobody figured it out, came to my event, said, no one's ever looked at my nerve system. Could you do this? Absolutely. I took the x-ray. Now, do you guys see this shows me an instantaneous, right now I know this person has what? Yes. They have this. So I get to go, all right, so this is present, and we need to deal with it. Now, this is where some of us get a little nervous, though, right? I'm going to say, you need to go to a chiropractor, and you need to get that skull lifted up, and we need to get the spine reset. Who's been a chiropractor before? Right? I've had, oh my God, a lot of you. It's amazing. Now, I've had some people say, no, I will never do that in my life. Can't handle it, can't stand it, I don't know what's happening, I'm nervous, I'm afraid you might break something. The noise is the pressure coming off the joint. Okay, if you have a lot of release, then you have a lot of pressure. You should not have any noise happening when you move your neck around in normal positions. So if you hear, you know what that tells me? Look. Okay, you have a neurological interference. Okay? And I know we laugh at it. This is true, right? It's 100% the truth. But now here's the problem that I have with most chiropractors. Don't they come in and say stuff like, where does it hurt? Yeah. Okay, so if you came in and said, well, I don't have a lot of pain. Now watch, I'd like you to check my vagal nerve to see if it can affect my diabetes. Your average chiropractor is going to do what? Do you have headaches? Now, if you're going to someone who does stuff like me, fantastic. I look at it and I say,
all the way, but as far as chiropractic.
from the functionality perspective, yes, because you can't feel this, but look, this also tells me not only is it pancreas, but it's the heart, sinuses, the eyes, the ears, the nose. Vagus nerve goes everywhere, guys. So what we do that may be a little different than people you've been to before is, I would like to see with a single therapy session, will this open up? So she came in, got this x-ray done, I saw it, I showed it to her, I said, look right here, neurogenic cause. It's supposed to look more open. Why don't we do one quick release, we'll re-x-ray you and we'll see what happens. And I went, oh, you're going to heal from this. It physically opened up. I know exactly what we need to do to stabilize it and correct it. You need this many adjustments to it, do this therapy at home, wear these weights, do all this stuff. And what we'll do is we'll check in with you in about a month and see what happens. What are we looking at here? Not quite perfect yet, but definitely more open. What are we doing here 3 months later?
Yes.
Much more improved, much more open, okay? And this is one of the steps to getting your sugars to drop down. And I know, right? You're like, wait, what? My spine has something to do with my sugars. Your spine has something to do with the function of your organs in your body. If your brain is not connected to how they communicate, they lose efficiency and they lose power. So I want you to hear from her so you can hear what happened, as we did this and then as we implemented the other two. You guys ready?
Hey guys, I'm so excited. I'm here, and we have something incredible to share with you about what's been happening with their sugars. So I'm going to let you share the story more just because it's so transformational. So.
Okay, well, I was diagnosed by my regular primary care physician with heavy diabetes type 2. My sugar at that time was 396, and my A1C was 12.7 according to this test. And I came to see Dr. Ernst because my doctor told me there was no hope. He immediately wanted to put me on metformin. I called him and said, can I just not take the medication, do something else? They said it was impossible. You have to take metformin. I said, can I do it with diet and exercise? Anything else? There's nothing else you can do. You have to take the metformin. And so I didn't feel that that was where God was wanting me to go. So I met Dr. Ernst on April the 19th. He ran his own blood test and showed that my blood work was 9.1. When I emailed him, I felt like I had no hope. He reached out to me and he gave me hope. And I came to him and he shared with me how I could heal my gut, heal my back, and eat healthy and straighten everything out. And my success story is that as of today, I got my blood work back and my A1C is 5.7.
Yeah.
I give God all the glory. I pray blessings upon Dr. Ernst's ministry because this is a ministry. I'm not just a person or a number. I am a sister in Christ to him, and he cares about my whole health.
And so let me ask this. When you were at your medical office, did they ever test your gut to see if there was a bacterial relationship to what was going on with your sugars? Did they run like a detox test, find out if you have toxins or any issues? Did they take x-rays of your spine looking at the nerves that go to your pancreas or to the areas of your intestines?
Blood test something.
Yeah, and so the challenge is, of course, in their world, there is no cure because they don't test for the cause. When you actually get cause tests done and you fix that, of course, the human body has the ability to heal itself. So what a great, great story. What would you say for those who are watching this video about if they have diabetes or even if they don't even know that they have diabetes, what would you say to somebody who's looking for a way out?
I would come to Dr. Ernst. He runs a full panel, gets all the answers instead of just a small view. He gets the whole panel done so you know exactly where you're at. And then he gives you a plan fit specifically for you to get you to move forward to meet your goal of where you need to be. Wholly healthy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, thanks guys.
5.4. Non-diabetic. Isn't that amazing? So I like to think of it, it's kind of like, imagine if you tried to put a puzzle together, you had all the pieces, but you didn't know what it was supposed to look like. It'd be really tough, wouldn't it? So like 3,000 pieces to this puzzle. You know, normally you would kind of put the puzzle here and you'd say, okay, well, those colors go over here, etc. What these tests offer me is they offer me the picture of the puzzle. And then all we have to do is go, okay, put that piece here, put this piece here, put this piece here. And as it comes together, now you see the beauty of the puzzle. Does that make sense? Now the next organ that's vitally important is your liver. And guess what? The liver is also controlled by the vagus nerve. But it's also controlled by the nerves in the middle of your back. And I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not, but most people that have diabetes tell me that's the spot that doesn't seem to go away. Anybody else? That one spot in the middle part of your back. Now that would tell us that there's an alignment issue within that region then. if you feel it. But you can sometimes have it and not feel it. So, just say it again. It usually has a burning, sort of tingling, aching sensation that you go get a massage with. It feels good for about a day or two, and then it comes right back. Or you do your stretching, your yoga, Pilates, workout, etc., and you're like, it just won't go away. That should make you wake up and go, something's wrong. And the way I look at it is, the region that you feel things in, we would want to say, well, what is that section controlling? That controls the liver, so if I have high blood sugars, it could be cause and effect then for me. Does that make sense? The liver also both makes sugar. So here's the other issue. Sometimes you can irritate the nerve where it actually becomes overactive. So now if the nerve is firing too much instead of not enough, the liver's just going like this, sugar, 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 and you might be eating the perfect diet, but still have high sugars. Does that make sense? So you have to look to the nerve tissues first. I like to think of your spine as like a fuse box, right? So if everything is aligned properly and all the switches are on, then this house is working to full capacity electrically, yes? But if somebody came in the middle of the night and flew two of them this way and went, wherever that goes, what would happen? No power to that region. Now, if it's, say, your washer and dryer, is there anything wrong with the washer and dryer?
No.
They're just not working, but there's nothing wrong with it. So now watch, right? If your pancreas is not producing enough insulin, is it the pancreas that's the problem? No, it's the power. You guys see it? It's so powerful. Powerful is power. So when we look at a spine, what we're looking for is where, I like to think of the spine as like each bone is one of these things. So here's like your 6th thoracic, 5th thoracic, 4th thoracic. If we look at a spine from the front, we want to see each bone stacked one on top of each other. Can you see how there's a nice space between the discs? That's where the nerve comes out. Nerve, 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 nerve. So if I look at this, if you came into me and this is your x-ray, I would say, well, thank God you don't have this. Like, you passed this test, but now we need to check here and here. You see how it works?
Yeah.
But then I had a patient come from my event earlier this year who had diabetes, and I took her x-ray and I went, oh gosh, what do you guys see here? Massive scoliosis misalignment, right? No pain at all. None. No back pain, no burning, no tingling, no aching. Didn't even know she had this. Was looking at me like I'm crazy, telling her that her spine is the cause of her problem. You know why you can't feel pain on a nerve? Because the majority of your nerves are function. We need things to move, and we need things to work by themselves. Thank God you don't have to think every second about your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your stomach digesting food, but your nerves are doing it for you automatically. Does that make sense? So if I compress this nerve, say 70%, I still won't hit the sensory portion of it, but I'll sugar, 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 and you might be eating the perfect diet. Does that make sense? So you have to look to the nerve tissues first. I like to think of your spine as like a fuse box, right? So if everything is aligned properly and all the switches are on, then this house is working to full capacity electrically, yes? But if somebody came in and is still flew two, what would happen? No power to that region. Now, if it's but there's nothing wrong with it. So now watch, right? If your pancreas is not producing enough insulin, is it the pancreas that's the problem? No, it's the power. Do you guys see it? It's so powerful. It's powerful, there's power. So when we look at a spine, what we're looking for is where, I like to think of the spine as like each bone is one of these things. So here's like your 6th thoracic, 5th thoracic, 4th thoracic. If we look at a spine from the front, we want to see each bone stacked one on top of each other. Can you see how there's a nice space between the discs? That's where the nerve comes out. Nerve, 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 nerve. This, if you came to me, I would say, well, thank God you don't have this. Like, you passed this test, but now we need to check here and here. Can you see how it works? But then I had a patient come from my event earlier this year, diabetes, her x-ray, and I went, oh, what do you, massive scoliosis misalignment, right? No pain at all. None. No tingling. Had this. Like, I can't. The majority of your nerves are function. We need things to move, and we need things to work by themselves. Thank God you don't have to think every second about your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your stomach digesting food, but your nerves are doing it for you automatically. Does that make sense? So if I compress this nerve, say 70%, I still won't
That's why you can have high blood pressure, not feel the nerve to your heart being compressed, but that could be a cause and effect. Now, if you are saying, no, I do feel it, then what does that tell us? That's a lot of pressure on a nerve, right? So you might look at that and say, well, surely she must be feeling this. No, it's a slow over time. I could do the best diet on the planet. I could give her all the detoxing on the world, but because the nerves are interfered with, she's not addressed the cause. There are thermal scans we can do today. We can run this device back and look for swelling. Where's the largest amount of heat and swelling? First. As a diabetic, I would go, that's a cause, that needs to be fixed. Let's take an x-ray, let's see what it looks like, let's release it, let's monitor this, and I promise you, I've seen sugars drop drastically just. Again, if we have the ability to scan at the beginning, can't we progressively see if you're improving? Yep. So with Tammy, right, she comes in, major compression, now we see a nice cool nerve system. As long as she maintains that and keeps it that way, her diabetes does not come back. It would be gone because it's not a diagnostic condition. Now, the next one, our microbiome, is a little more intestine. What to do. They secrete chemicals and hormones and cytokines and all kinds. The kind of bacteria you have in here dictates what's going on with your metabolism. Now, if you were to look at the, I'll call it, easy way of looking at this is that the cells of our intestines protect our blood from the bacteria that's within our gut. And what we know is because of our diet and our medications and our stress, there are these things that hold the cells together. And then when they become damaged, we start to get little tiny leaks or holes within the intestines. So the common term for bacterial disorder within your gut is called leaky gut. You guys heard of this? Is that you're leaking bacteria, toxins, and other materials in your blood, and because your brain is aware of this, it's going to spike a response to it, all immune state. What happens is over time, as you get where is the source? Now, you can get tested to find out how far apart they're spread if you want. There's markers that will tell us how. So one thing that we now, if you eat wheat, if you eat bread, grains, even things like rice and corn, soy, oats, oatmeals, whole grains, etc., the gluten that is found in them is now being shown major cause effects for what disease. They're now saying every single human being on the planet that eats a wheat product that has been hybridized or genetically modified to change the gluten component, we are creating gut leaks. Remember I said in the went through the roof. Yep. We genetically modified wheat in 1994. We started applying Monsanto's Roundup spray to it like crazy. And I have some slides I'd like to show you that show a one-to-one correlation to the amount of Roundup in your body and your likelihood of having diabetes. Because we know that grains create the damage. The toxic materials in, and the very first sign of it happening is you become sensitive to foods that you're eating. And the sensitivity shows up often like your nose starts running. Sometimes people say, look, I used to be able to eat this, now I can't. Every time I do, I get bloated, I get gas, I get pain, my joints ache, etc. Look at symptoms and say for the following. Do you get headaches a lot? Are you bloating with gas? Are you fatigued? Your joint pressure, high sugars? If you have any of these, they're now scientifically connecting it to the fact that your gut's leaking. But how many of you have gone to your doctors and had them test your gut to see how leaky it is? They don't. That we can see. This is a special test run in our office. It's a scale you stand on, and it breaks your body apart. And it tells us how much fat, muscle, and water you have in like your left arm, your right arm, your leg, your trunk, etc. Now, the unique thing about your body is it wants to heal you at all times. So the amazing thing is it's going to want to fill them in. So what do you think it fills it in with? Not spread apart. It's a sticky substance kind of that you would want to plug holes with. Cholesterol. And now remember that shook your head yes. Inside the medical serum ferritin to come down, you iron that binds to a protein that's been secreted by your liver, and it has to be chelated out, and sometimes you can even suck it out or draw it out. And I promise you, that test right there will tell us almost immediately if you can get an A1C to drop within 90 days or less. But you need to get the test done, which means we got to get the blood test done. Yes? So chelation means to take a product, like either a capsular form or a liquid, and it has the ability to attach whatever you're going after to it, so you can urinate it out. There are like mercury, iron, ferritin, etc. You can put these drops in your mouth if we know the dosage, because we need to know the number, and I need to know if you have it. If I give you a ferritin chelator, you swallow it, it goes through your body, it grabs all the ferritin, and you urinate it out. Isn't that amazing? But it's not a medication. So your doctors won't give it to you, nor will they even tell you about it. And most of the time, they never even test for it. So I would highly recommend ferritin testing. Another thing here, just to show you, they're now saying the amount of metallics like mercury, lead, and thallium in your urine is directly linked to the type of diabetes you have. 1-to-1 correlation between if you excrete urine with metals in it, directly connected to the amount of sugar within your body. So now where do most of us get things like mercury from? Fillings in your teeth. Where else? Fish we eat. If they're the big fish, swordfish, grouper, marlin, these kind of things, right? And also from medications, vaccinations, etc. So flu shots have mercury in them unless you're getting the mercury-free ones, but then here's the challenge. They don't use mercury, so instead they use aluminum. So it is a mercury-free vaccine, but it still has a different metal inside of it. And aluminum has been connected to Alzheimer's. Endocrine disruptive effects of mercury. This study showed that mercury does the same thing ferritin does. It binds in here and it blocks it. So what if you just have a little too much mercury in your blood or your body and you never even tested for it? What if it was ferritin? What if it's a microbiome leaking? What if it's neurological? Again, remember, we got to get the whole picture. If we can find the picture, then I could say, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this. And look, you guys do it. That's amazing. It's like a coaching program. We tell you what to do. We'll monitor you. We'll show you what it is. And maybe 6-8 weeks later, what should we do? Rerun the blood work. And if your A1C is high and now it's down 3 points, you get to go, oh my God, it's actually working. And it will work all the time. Concentrations between heavy metals and aging men with metabolic syndrome. So they're connecting these 3 metals to your likelihood of having diabetes. Now here's the interesting thing about fillings. Where do most of us have our fillings? Which teeth? Upper, rear teeth, yes? Now this comes from the acupuncture world and the meridian association between your teeth and organs. Now here's what's fascinating. Your pancreas is connected energetically to these 2 teeth in a world of, I'll call it, what's a good phrase for it? You guys know about meridians, energy pathways within the body? It's an energetic pathway between the teeth and the organs. So if you have a filling in that tooth that's mercury-based, the silver ones, then you have a high likelihood that you're going to see the mercury show up within these organ tissues. Now another thing, this is a side subject, if we were talking about a cancer seminar, almost all women that get a breast cancer, say on the right side, have the filling on the right side of their mouth. If it's left breast, it's the left side of the mouth, because it's also directly connected. We see thyroid issues also massive. And it's because of the fact that that's where the source is. So you may actually have a filling inside your tooth that's seeding the body, and it would need to be addressed. Here again is the connection between the wheat and the stuff we spray. So herbicides and pesticides are directly connected to it again. We modified wheat in 1995, 1996. What you're looking at here is the prevalence of diabetes in the yellow, the amount glyphosate sprayed onto corn and soy and wheat. About you guys, but doesn't that look like a direct correlation?
Yes, it does.
So that's cause and effect. Why do we have to stop eating grains? Not because they necessarily turn into sugar, but because almost all grains are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. What about organic? Don't have pesticides and herbicides, which cause a leak. Healing phases until we can get it fixed, grainless, dairyless, and we use lots of high probiotic-based food, and then we detox the body, we release the nerve stress, bam, it starts to heal by itself. It happens all the time. There's actually now a test that you can run to find how much pesticides and herbicides you have in your body. It's a simple urine panel. We do these at our office. Money, you don't necessarily have to do it. If you want to, we can still do it, but I promise you, have what's called urinary melanoaldehyde in your body. It's a byproduct of damage to the receptor because of pesticides and herbicides. So if you urinate out, I know there's pesticides in the body, and we can create a detox. Also, the neat thing is, the test alone, just that one marker, is $500 to $600 based on your insurance. It's ridiculous. Just say, if you would like me to do it, I'll do it. And the thing is almost all of you who do it is going to turn that color. So we use it as follow-up to see how you're reacting and responding. Opportunities you have for today. I know we're getting close to our time, so I want to be honoring for that. But you need to listen to this story. Debbie came to me, come to one of my, heard my radio show, called my office and said, I've been dealing with diabetes. I'd like to come meet with you. A couple questions. I generally say one.
Hi, I'm Debbie Roberts, and I'd like to share with you what I've been experiencing through Dr. Ernst's program. About 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I've been under physician's care since then, following her dietary guidelines and taking metformin twice a day. Over the years, it's been an up and down battle as far as blood sugar levels, and I wasn't seeing any progress, and I was getting very discouraged, especially about 9 months prior to starting Dr. Ernst's program, knowing that I may be dealing with diabetes for the rest of my life like my father and my grandmothers did. I was at the airport on a Saturday morning, and I happened to come on Dr. Ernst's radio program. I was intrigued by what he had to say, and so I came home and Googled him. I was in contact with him, and then soon after that, I started the program. And I knew this was right because my husband aligned with my desire to do this, and I knew it was in God's will. So I began the program, and I've seen through the chiropractic care I'm receiving and the exercises I do here at home, much improvement on my range of motion, my ability to get up and down off the floor, which is important because I like to play with my grandchildren, and less pain and a better night's quality of sleep. I saw through just the chiropractic care and exercises my blood sugar levels starting to come down. It's been since I started the detox program and the healing of my gut that I've seen my blood sugar levels drop to the point this past week they were 120 or less. And I was thrilled on Sunday when I had a reading of 91. Now in the last 3 days, I've seen those 90 readings at least once a day, if not more. I cannot tell you the difference it's made in my life. And I know that this is God's will. He calls us to be a holy living sacrifice to Him. And so I would encourage you to prayerfully discern if this is God's will for you, because it's been life-changing for me. And I look forward to seeing normal blood level counts every day. Thank you.